everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel Cbse Courses with Reeti. In this video, we are going to continue with the chapter Carbon and its compounds. In the previous video, we discussed about the functional groups. What are they, the definition, along with alcohol. We discussed about alcohol. In this video, I am going to start with the functional group known as aldehyde. So, if I do a little recapitulation, we discussed about alcohol whose suffix was ol, right? And it looked something like this. Similarly, in alcohol, the functional group was OH. In aldehyde, it is a different. Aldehyde is the functional group where it is double bond with oxygen and single bond with hydrogen. Double bond with oxygen and single bond with hydrogen. This particular functional group is known as aldehyde. Its suffix is Al. The one Al you can remember from here. Aldehyde. Al is the suffix. For example, if I want to write methanol, so how will you draw that? So for drawing methanol, we see that how many number of carbons are there. So number of carbon is telling us that there is only one carbon in this particular compound. So drawing one carbon, then An tells me that all are having a single bond, followed by this Al, which is a suffix for aldehyde, tells me that it will have double bond with oxygen and single bond with hydrogen. So 1, 2, 3 and completing the valency. This is what your methanol looks like. Okay. Basically, in aldehyde, is the functional group where there is a double bond of carbon with oxygen and a single bond with hydrogen. Generally, carbon has double bond with oxygen only. Before discussing about aldehyde, let us try to understand that why in most of the cases oxygen has double bond with carbon. Now the thing is that it is possible that oxygen is having single bond with carbon, but here then we will have to complete the valency of oxygen. Let me just tell you how. Let me draw the electron dot structure for it. Okay, so the atomic number of oxygen is what? Hydrogen, helium, lithium, beryllium, boron, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, that is 8. So if I do its electron configuration, it will look like this. You know electron configuration, the K cell, L cell, M cell and N cell. So 2 and 6. But you can see that it is not valence yet because jab tak there is not octet. Octet means number of electrons 8 in the outermost shell. Jab tak 8 nahi honge, it is not a valenced. Oxygen is not valenced yet. So for this, in outermost shell here, there are only 6 electrons in oxygen. This means that I have to add 2 more electrons to this oxygen in the outermost shell to make it 8. And as soon as it will become 8, it will be known as a octet. That means now it is valenced. So if I draw the electron dot structure, so oxygen 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And about carbon, it is 1. Let me just represent it by a dot. 1, 2, 3, 4. Because we know that the valency of carbon is 4. Now they will do what? They will share 2 electrons each. Matlab, they will form a double covalent bond. Hence, it will look like Okay, now in oxygen, the round of oxygen, you can see there are now 8 electrons. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 2 taken from carbon. So 7 and 8. But in carbon, we can see there are only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 electrons in carbon. So obviously we need to do the more, we need to form more covalent bond with carbon to valence it. But in the case of oxygen, in this is how it looks like when I say carbon is having double bond with oxygen. So this is what I mean to say, that they both are sharing 2 electrons each. By sharing 2 electrons, the valency of oxygen gets completed. Okay, the valency of oxygen gets completed if I do the double share 2 bond. Here sharing 2 electrons means what? That oxygen had 6 electrons, carbon had 4 electrons. Oxygen needed 2 more electrons to become octet. Hence, oxygen took 2 more electrons from the carbon. And you know that if we are taking 2 electrons, then we have to give or share 2 electrons as well. It should be equal. Hence, if the carbon is sharing 2 electrons, oxygen is also going to share 2 electrons. Because of this, oxygen shares completes its octet. Okay, but carbon is left, so we'll do more forming of covalent bond, but we are not going to dig into it right now. Okay, so I drew methanol right now, right? So it looked like CH double bond oxygen and H. Most of you do what? When I say to draw methanol, you actually draw one carbon and then you add this whole thing like this. Some of you draw methanol like the way I am showing here. You will say what? That this whole is a functional group. This whole is a functional group aldehyde, and if I saying methanol, so I have to first draw one carbon and then this Al means adding this whole sum, and you will draw something like this. But meth doesn't mean ki you have to add one carbon. Meth doesn't mean that you have to add one carbon, but it means to n is equals to 1. ये n का मतलब हुआ total number of carbon is equals to 1. Meth means total number of carbon is equals to 1. It doesn't mean adding 1. Hence, this is not methanol because here the total number of carbon are more than 1. This is there 2 carbon, not 1, right? In this particular structure, there are 2 carbon, but meth stands for total number of carbon as 1, and it is more than 1. Hence, it is not methanol, but it is actually ethanol. Okay. So, when I say any about the aldehyde, it doesn't mean that you have to write this and then add as many carbon it is presenting by the root word. अगर यहाँ eth होगा, it doesn't mean that first you will draw 2 carbon and then you will add this up also. If I am saying to draw ethanol, so it will not mean that first you will draw 2 carbon and then you will add this whole sum like this. If you are going to do it like this, it's going to be wrong because H stands for total number of carbon. Total number of carbon needs to be 2. Hence, I am trying to say is that the functional group, the carbon in the functional group is counted in the total number of carbons solely. If you will say that in this structure I am having 2 carbons and 1 functional group, then it's not justified because जो कार्बन है हमारा फंक्शनल ग्रुप में ये भी ऐड होगा as total number of carbons. In this you will not say कि पूरा functional group है तो 2 ही कार्बन है. You have to count this also and it will become 3. total 3 carbons हो जाएंगे if you do it like this. What I mean to say that कोई भी functional group में अगर carbon है, so you have to consider that carbon as total number of carbon when you are counting. It is going to be a part of it. We'll do one more example to understand it more clearly. Let me just rub it. Okay. Now, let us say you have to draw butanol. How are you going to draw this? If you know the answer, just pause the video and draw it as soon as possible. Okay, now I'll draw it. So butanol means total number of carbon is equals to 4. But का मतलब क्या हुआ? That I am going to have 4 carbon in this particular compound. And जैसे कि मैंने कहा, this functional group, the carbon in this functional group will also be counted. You will not consider कि अलग से and 4 पहले और फिर ये वाला carbon भी. Including this, total number of carbon is equals to n. मैंने बताया था in the first video itself. And n में जो total number of carbon है, it also means the including the carbon in functional group. Okay, total number of carbon which we represent as n, it is including the carbon in the functional group as well. Okay, I'm not saying excluding, I'm saying including. मतलब you have to consider this carbon as, and also जब आप counting करोगे for the total number of carbon, you have to consider this as well. For drawing butanol, then but means 4 carbon, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. N means single bond. Okay, it is single bond only. Al means is the suffix of aldehyde. मतलब double bond oxygen, single bond hydrogen. Oxygen, hydrogen. You will draw it like this. Okay. Total number of carbon और फिर जो भी functional group है, you will add it. तो what I can say is कि इस C को आप एक तरह से negligible रखो. Don't consider it if you are getting so much confused. Although it is very clear कि N जो है, that is the total number of carbon including the carbon in the functional groups. Okay, now completing the valency. Okay, so this is how your butanol looks like. Now I think it is clear that what I was trying to say by this particular line, N is the total number of carbon including carbon in functional group. जैसे अगर ये चीज देखो, ये सेम टू सेम यहाँ है, बट आई एम नॉट सेइंग कि यहाँ टोटल नंबर ऑफ कार्बन आर 1 2 3 ओनली. आई एम सेइंग टोटल नंबर ऑफ कार्बन आर 4. 1 2 3 4 including the carbon in the functional group. You have to include the carbon of the functional group as well when you are counting the total number of carbon. You will not say that यहाँ सिर्फ 3 carbon and this is the whole thing is a functional group. You have to consider this carbon as your in your total number of carbons only. Okay. Now we have drawn butanol. Let us try drawing propanol. Propanol. Can you draw it? It is quite easy. Prop means number of carbons are 3. So 1, 2, 3. In means there is a double bond between the carbon. So double bond. Al means Al is the suffix of aldehyde means double bond oxygen, single bond hydrogen. So double bond oxygen, single bond hydrogen. Hydrogen 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. This is how propanol looks like. Always after drawing the structure, check carefully if the valency of carbon is completed or not. Okay, I hope this much is clear. Now, aldehyde is crystal clear. Aldehyde is a functional group that says that double bond oxygen, single bond hydrogen. Suffix is Al, and I have now I have told you multiple times now that n जिसको हम total number of carbon कहते हैं उसमें you have to include the carbon in the functional group as well, like we did here. Butanol, so 1 2 3 4 4 carbon. I am not saying that this whole is a functional group and I will count only 1 2 3, so this is propanol. I am not saying that, right? Just to clear it out, just to check whether if you are clear or not. Okay, tell me, what is the name of this particular compound? Take your time, think about it, and you don't have to look for the hydrogen. Just check for the number of carbon and the functional groups. Okay? Okay, I have given you time already. You can pause the video if you are not sure with your answer yet. I'm going to tell you the answer now. So, total number of carbon are 1, 2, 3, 4. 4? No. We have to include the carbon of the functional group. So, 5 carbon are there. If I check the functional group, it is double bond oxygen, single bond hydrogen. Okay, so double bond oxygen, single bond hydrogen किसका होता है? Aldehyde का, right? So I will write 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Meth, eth, prop, but, pent. Pent, single bond है तो N and Al for the aldehyde suffix. So pentanol is the answer. Now the easy way to remember aldehyde की कौन सा functional group है and what about it, what you can do is you can remember it by like CHO. Just remember CHO. And oxygen ka you should be clear that oxygen will be making double bond only. There are very rare case where oxygen makes single bond, and in our chapter basically most of the time in case of functional group में हम यही देखेंगे that oxygen makes the double bond with carbon. So remember CHO means oxygen double bond with carbon and single bond hydrogen. मतलब carbon has double bond oxygen and single bond hydrogen. Okay. Now pentanol हो गया, propanol हो गया. इसके ही basis पे I am going to teach you one more thing. When you are asked to write in its molecular formula, they can give you a question. Let me just rub it and try to tell you. Let me rub it from here. I hope this point is crystal clear to you all. Rubbing this part and okay. Sometimes they ask you to write. Okay, just a second. To write. Just a second. Sometimes they ask you to write molecular formula along with the structure, and you all get confused. Like, let me give you example. अगर मैं बोलूं to write the molecular formula of methane, how will you write? I hope structure सबको draw करने की जरूरत नहीं है, but still if you have to, so you will do right. 1 carbon single bond, so 1 2 3 4, it becomes CH4. Easy, right? If I say ethane को लिखने को, तो ethane is two carbon single bond completing the valency. So this becomes C2H6, right? So this, if you are writing in this way, this is known as molecular formula. Okay, this is known as molecular formula. Now they can ask you to write the molecular formula for the given aldehyde. So how will you do that? So let me just take the example of let's say propanol. First, you know what? Do what? Just draw the structure of propanol. How will you do that? So propanol will be like, prop means 3 carbon, 1, 2, 3. In means single bond to single bond है. Al means the functional group CHO. Aldehyde मतलब CHO. Just remember it. Aldehyde CHO. Al अगर suffix देख लिया मतलब aldehyde है. Aldehyde मतलब CHO. CHO means double bond with oxygen and single bond with hydrogen. So you will simply do what? Double bond oxygen, single bond hydrogen. ठीक है, तो आपने नेमिंग कर दी, जो बोला था मेन स्ट्रक्चर यू हैव ड्रॉ. नाउ व्हाट यू हैव टू डू, यू जस्ट हैव टू कंप्लीट द वैलेंसी. नाउ हाउ विल यू डू दैट? 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4. दिस इज हाउ यू कंप्लीट द वैलेंसी विथ हाइड्रोजन, क्योंकि कार्बन की वैलेंसी 4 है एंड यू हैव टू कंप्लीट दैट. तो ये हो गया प्रोपेनल. Now tell me the molecular formula of the given. How will you do that? So most of you get confused. Now there are multiple ways to do the naming. Either पहले आप सारे एक number of carbon count कर लो, 1 2 3 C3 1 2 3 4 5 6 H6 O. या तो you do it like this, एक एक करके काउंट करो, पहले सारे कार्बन काउंट करके लिख दो, देन काउंट दी हाइड्रोजन एंड राइट इट डाउन, एंड देन द रिमेनिंग ऑक्सीजन काउंट करके लिख दो. दिस इज द इजिएस्ट वे. नहीं, दिस इज द इजिएस्ट वे. एंड इट कैन बी लाइक, यू कैन ऑल्सो लाइक इस, ये जो फंक्शनल ग्रुप है ना, इसको अकेले छोड़ दो. Just forget this functional group. इसको सीधे as it is CHO लिख दो. CHO लिखना तो easy है ना. CHO, writing CHO is quite easy. Aldehyde से CHO याद ही रहेगा, बस CHO लिखा, इस functional group को भूल जाओ. Now, उसके बाद functional group को भूलने के बाद जो remaining बचे हैं उनको लिखो. 2 carbon, तो C2, and how many hydrogen? 1 2 3 4 5 H5. So these both are the same thing. Both are depicting this propanol only. चाहे मैं इसका ऐसे लिखूं या मैं ऐसे लिखूं, बात मेरी propanol है. But here in this case, this CHO is actually making it more easy to understand कि this belongs to aldehyde group. इससे थोड़ी confusion हो सकती है whether it's from aldehyde or not. Now for this, just star mark it, because I am going to tell you forward that why this can be confusion, because the for now you will say कि ये लौता तो functional group है who is having hydrogen and oxygen as well. So इससे तो clear हो जाना चाहिए, but no, it will not be clear, and I am going to tell you how. But for now I hope molecular formula समझ आ गया how to write it. Functional group को अलग कर दो, सीधे लिख दो CHO, then count the number of carbon and the number of hydrogen and write it as it is. It's the most easiest and most simple way to write the molecular formula. Now the last thing about aldehyde, then we are going to complete it. And yeah, propanol में मैंने ये वाला कार्बन भी काउंट किया है. The carbon in the functional group I have counted it as well, तभी मेरा 1 2 3 3 कार्बन हुआ है. Okay, I'm not removing this carbon from my counting. Propanol बनाना था, so I am including this carbon as well in the function, the one in the functional group. मतलब whenever you are drawing propanol methanol, you have to include the carbon of the functional group as well. इसीलिए in the starting actually I didn't consider this as carbon. I just used to write it, remember it like this. But actually this is become more confusing. So write it down like this only, and with the practice it will be more clear to you. So now the last thing I want to tell you about it is they can be a question. Draw simplest aldehyde. Now can you answer me this question? Draw simplest aldehyde. So by this question what they are trying to ask you to write is कि write the first aldehyde. जैसे अगर मैं एल्केन की बात करूं, what's the first alkane? Methane, right? First alkane is methane, the second alkane is ethane, and then propane, butane, pentane, hexane, and so on. So similarly, they are asking you to draw simplest aldehyde. So how will you do that? For doing that, you will use this formula. Although ये formula नहीं भी याद करोगे तो it is okay. Simplest aldehyde mean aldehyde with only one carbon. तो इजिली यही पहले लिख लोगे C डबल बॉन्ड ऑक्सीजन हाइड्रोजन और फिर कंप्लीट दी वैलेंसी. ये हो गया सिंपलेस्ट एल्डिहाइड और मिथेनॉल. बट आई विल प्रेफर कि जस्ट रिमेंबर दिस फॉर्मूला, बिकॉज इन द फ्यूचर केसेस यू आर गोइंग टू सी कि कई बार आपको जो सिंपलेस्ट फंक्शनल ग्रुप होगा उसमें यू हैव टू यूज 3 कार्बन एज वेल. तो जस्ट रिमेंबर कि एल्डिहाइड का जब मैं फंक्शनल ग्रुप लगाऊंगी so I will write N0 और फिर CHO as it is लिख दूंगी. ओके और जस्ट रिमेंबर दैट कि सिंपलेस्ट मीन्स जो इसका सिंपलेस्ट फॉर्म हो सकता है. एल्डिहाइड का सिंपलेस्ट फॉर्म क्या हो सकता है? एक कार्बन हो और ये तो फंक्शनल ग्रुप है ही डबल बॉन्ड ऑक्सीजन और हाइड्रोजन, इसको तो मैं रिमूव कर ही नहीं सकती हूँ. सो इन दिस वे यू विल राइट वन कार्बन and then you will write this double bond oxygen, single bond hydrogen, or you will complete the valency. This is how simplest aldehyde will be. Just write this question so that you won't get confused. So are we clear with aldehyde? Aldehyde is a functional group. That means CHO means double bond oxygen, single bond hydrogen. Remembering it by CHO, suffix is Al. And I told you how to write its molecular formula. I gave you one question that is quite common to draw simplest aldehyde. So this is the simplest aldehyde. Okay, if you are getting confused with it, just forget it. Just remember simplest aldehyde क्या होगा? One carbon. Simplest aldehyde will be what? कि एक कार्बन होना ही चाहिए. Actually, you know what? Just write it as, just remember it as N is equals to 1. No 0 but 1. So N refers to total number of carbon including carbon in functional groups. तो N is equals to 1 means कि नंबर ऑफ कार्बन जो होंगे वो 1 होगा फंक्शनल ग्रुप वाला काउंट करके. सो दिस इज व्हाट यू विल ड्रॉ. क्योंकि फंक्शनल ग्रुप में एक ऑलरेडी कार्बन है तो यू विल नो नीड टू ऐड वन कार्बन, राइट? अगर इस फंक्शनल ग्रुप में ऑलरेडी एक कार्बन है और सिंपलेस्ट एल्डिहाइड मतलब एक कार्बन होना चाहिए और हमारे फंक्शनल ग्रुप में ऑलरेडी है, तो फिर आपको ऐड करने की जरूरत नहीं है, बिकॉज दिस एन रेफर्स टू टोटल नंबर ऑफ कार्बन इंक्लूडिंग योर फंक्शनल ग्रुप, मतलब ये फंक्शनल ग्रुप वाले कार्बन भी इंक्लूड होंगे. It means that when you have to draw the simplest aldehyde, just remember total number of carbon is equals to 1 and total number of carbon में functional group include होगा. So this will be your simplest aldehyde. Okay. So we are done with aldehyde. Now we'll start with the second functional group. Let me rub it. Okay. The second functional group is ketone. This is your ketone. कीटोन का सफिक्स है ONE. यहां से आप याद कर सकते हो कीटोन का लास्ट 3 वर्ड ONE and you remember it as carbon double bond oxygen. Quite simple, right? Only carbon double bond oxygen याद रखना है. This is what ketone is. So the functional group ketone means double bond carbon double bond with oxygen. It's your ketone. इसमें मैं पहला क्वेश्चन यही रखूंगी, simplest ketone. Tell me the simplest ketone. What is the simplest ketone? You all might say that N is equals to 1 करके you will draw it like this. But this is wrong answer. Just remember, doesn't it looks like methanol? Methanol. So you will say कि अब फिर difference क्या है? Simplest ketone भी यही है, simplest aldehyde भी यही है. यहाँ पे you will say that it is methanol, वहाँ पे ये methanol था. So actually this is wrong. एक simplest ketone will always have no 3 carbons. Now you will say कि ऐसा क्यों, हमें तो simplest निकालना था. So why not 1 carbon but 3 carbon? So let me tell you. Ketone has a star point that you have to remember, that when it makes a double bond with oxygen, its side valency should be completed with carbon only. You will say what? It might be confusing. तो I said कि जब ये फंक्शनल ग्रुप आप लगाओगे, जो साइड की वैलेंसी आपको कंप्लीट करनी है टू मेक दिस वैलेंसी, टू कंप्लीट द वैलेंसी यू विल नॉट ऐड हाइड्रोजन बट कार्बन. इट मीन्स कि ऑक्सीजन जिसके साथ भी, जो भी कार्बन के साथ बॉन्ड बनाएगा, उसके दोनों साइड कार्बन होने चाहिए. ओके, सो दिस इज द सिंपलेस्ट कीटोन. और फिर इसमें भी हाइड्रोजन, तब इसमें हाइड्रोजन यू कैन ऐड. This is your simplest ketone. But again it might be confusing. So ketone means carbon double bond with oxygen. Its suffix is ONE1. And when I am asking you to draw the simplest ketone, you have to take total number of carbon as 3. Why? Because एक star point है ketone का, that whenever a carbon is having a double bond with oxygen, मतलब ketone अगर है यहाँ functional group, then this carbon should complete its valency with the carbon only. दोनों साइड कार्बन ही होने चाहिए. इसीलिए when we drew aldehyde, जब हमने aldehyde ड्रॉ किया, so if it's like this, तो एल्डेहाइड का फंक्शनल ग्रुप जो कि डबल बॉन्ड ऑक्सीजन हाइड्रोजन है, इसका फर्स्ट पे लगा सकते हो. यू कैन पुट इट एट द मिड वन एज वेल, नॉट एट द मिड वन एक्चुअली. You can only put it at last. Okay. Why not in mid one? Now the question rises कि क्या मैं एल्डिहाइड को बीच में लगा सकती हूँ? एल्डिहाइड की पोजिशनिंग क्या होगी? ये क्वेश्चन है अब. That I should have discussed before only, but okay. Let us discuss now only. कीटोन के साथ ही हम डिस्कस करते हैं, बट फर्स्ट विद कीटोन का डिस्कस करते हैं. सो द फंक्शनल ग्रुप कीटोन, इसकी पोजिशनिंग हमेशा मिड में ही होगी. दिस फंक्शनल ग्रुप विल ऑलवेज बी देयर जहां पे दोनों साइड कार्बन होंगे. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, नाउ टेल मी वेयर टू पुट दिस फंक्शनल ग्रुप डबल बॉन्ड ऑक्सीजन. इसमें कहाँ लगाऊं मैं डबल बॉन्ड ऑक्सीजन? सो यू शुड रिमेंबर कि हमेशा इस तरह का सिनेरियो विजिबल होना चाहिए. That the carbon having the double bond with oxygen should be surrounded by carbon only. याद रखना that the कीटोन जिस भी जहां पे भी फंक्शनल ग्रुप कीटोन होगा उसके आसपास कार्बन ही होने चाहिए. इफ यू आर पुटिंग द फंक्शनल ग्रुप डबल बॉन्ड ऑक्सीजन दैट इज योर कीटोन, देन it should be surrounded by carbon only. मतलब I can't put it here because यहाँ कार्बन नहीं है. I can't put it here. वैलेंसी कंप्लीट हो रही है बट यहाँ भी कार्बन नहीं है. I can't put it here as well. So here, yes, I can put it here because यहाँ it is surrounded by carbon only. I can even put it on this one क्योंकि यहाँ भी this is surrounded by carbon. Means the positioning of ketone can never be on termination. आप कीटोन को टर्मिनेट मीन्स एंडिंग या स्टार्टिंग, जहाँ पे चेन खत्म या स्टार्ट हो रही है. यू कांट पुट कीटोन इन स्टार्टिंग और एंडिंग में. नो कीटोन इन functional group ketone. You will not put it in either the starting or the ending. It should be in mid always. कीटोन हमेशा मिड में ही होगा. We'll discuss one example. Simplest ketone, I hope it is clear. Simplest ketone, please remember the formula. Total number of carbon is equals to 3. Although you don't really need to remember the formula if you are clear with the concept, because ketone के दोनों साइड हमेशा कार्बन होने चाहिए. कीटोन के दोनों साइड हमेशा कार्बन होने चाहिए. तो अगर मैं सिर्फ सिंगल कार्बन लगाऊंगी, इफ आई एम गोइंग टू पुट सिंगल कार्बन हेयर, तो इसके दोनों साइड कैसे आएगा कार्बन? दैट इज नॉट इवन पॉसिबल. कीटोन पॉसिबल ही नहीं है 1 कार्बन या 2 कार्बन में. अगर इफ आई पुट इट लाइक दिस ऑल्सो, देन ऑल्सो कीटोन इज नॉट पॉसिबल, क्योंकि मैं इस पे अगर ऑक्सीजन लगाऊंगी तो इस साइड तो है ही नहीं. अगर मैं इस पे कीटोन लगा दिया 2 कार्बन पे, तो यहाँ तो कुछ है ही नहीं. सो इट विल नॉट बी अ कीटोन. कीटोन के लिए बोथ साइड कार्बन इज नेसेसरी. कीटोन जहाँ पे भी डबल बॉन्ड ऑक्सीजन लग रहा है उसके दोनों साइड कार्बन इज नेसेसरी, देन ओनली इट विल बी द फंक्शनल ग्रुप कीटोन. मैं ये नहीं कह रही कि दिस इज नॉट पॉसिबल. इट इज पॉसिबल. दिस इज पॉसिबल. Just complete the valency with hydrogen and this is possible, but this is not ketone. then ketone तभी होगा जब दोनों साइड कार्बन सराउंडेड होगा. when this carbon with इस कार्बन के साथ जिसके साथ डबल बॉन्ड ऑक्सीजन हुआ है, when this carbon will be surrounded by the carbon only, then only it will be ketone, or else this is not a ketone. ये एक नॉर्मल कंपाउंड है बट कीटोन नहीं है. ओके, एंड दिस इज योर सिंपलेस्ट कीटोन. मींस टोटल नंबर ऑफ कार्बन 3. और जैसे मैंने एल्डिहाइड में बताया था, N मींस टोटल नंबर ऑफ कार्बन इंक्लूडिंग द कार्बन इन आवर फंक्शनल ग्रुप्स. तो यहाँ वाले भी फंक्शनल ग्रुप को इंक्लूड करके है 1 2 3. यहाँ पे N3 जो है वो इंक्लूडिंग फंक्शनल ग्रुप है 1 2 3. This is your simplest ketone. Write it down if you want to. Now we'll do some example of it. Now I will ask you to draw pentanone. Pause the video and draw it as soon as possible, because this is how you will do the practice and will be able to solve the questions easily. So now focus here. I hope you are done. If you are not sure, just pause the video. Pent means total number of carbon. Pent means total number of carbon is 5. N means single bond, and on means the ketone. So I will draw it like, first I will draw the 5 carbons, 1 2 3 4 5. Then single bond रहेगा, done. ON is the ketone functional group. तो मैं कहाँ लगाऊंगा अब ऑक्सीजन? यहाँ? No. Why? Because यहाँ कार्बन नहीं है. So it will not be a ketone. यहाँ लगाऊं? Right. यहाँ लगा सकती हूँ क्योंकि दोनों साइड कार्बन है. Can I put it here? Yes. दोनों साइड कार्बन है. Can I put it here? Yes, because दोनों साइड कार्बन है. But can I put it here? No, because इस साइड नहीं है कार्बन. मतलब you can't put ketone in the starting or the ending. तो let's say मैं यहाँ लगा रही हूँ ketone. अब valency filling with hydrogen. So this is your pentanone. Can you see how easy it is to draw? Let us take one more example of butanone. Just draw it if you are able to. I hope you all are able to draw. If you are having confusion related to how I am going to know कि यहाँ 5 कार्बन आएंगे, यहाँ कितने कार्बन आएंगे, so you can watch my video, previous video, in which I told you how to learn about the naming given by IUPAC, that is International Union of Pure and Applied Chemistry. Okay, coming back to the chapter, butane. So but means total number of carbon 4. N means single bond, and this ONE means the functional group ketone. तो पहले 4 carbon 1 2 3 4. Then single bond है ही. I'll put ketone. Mid वाले पे लगाएंगे, neither starting nor the ending. And finally filling the valency with hydrogen. So 1 2 3 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4. So this is how you will draw butanone. I hope we are clear. Ketanone is a functional group, that means carbon double bond oxygen. Its suffix is ONE1. I told you about the positioning, that ketone is never double bond oxygen. You will never put, in the case of ketone, starting या ending में you will not put it. You can only put it in the mid. In case of ketone, simplest ketone draw करना है, so you need at least 3 carbon. Why? Because the case of ketone is that it should be surrounded by carbons only. यहाँ पे कोई और एलिमेंट, किसी भी साइड में अगर कोई और एलिमेंट है, देन वो कीटोन नहीं है. कीटोन तभी है जब दोनों साइड कार्बन है और इस कार्बन के साथ डबल बॉन्ड ऑक्सीजन है. ओनली इन दिस केस इट विल बी कीटोन, और एल्स इट इज नॉट अ कीटोन. तो कीटोन वी आर डन. नाउ आई वांट टू डिस्कस अबाउट positioning of aldehyde. Positioning of aldehyde. We discussed about the positioning of ketone. कि कीटोन फंक्शनल ग्रुप जो है वो स्टार्टिंग या एंडिंग में नहीं लगेगा, वो मिड में ही लगेगा. व्हाट अबाउट दिस एल्डिहाइड? सो लेट अस चेक. अब मैं यहाँ, ये तो परफेक्ट है, एकदम परफेक्ट सेट हो गया. वैलेंसी भी कार्बन की कंप्लीट हो गई, कोई प्रॉब्लम भी नहीं हुई. लेकिन क्या मैं इसको बीच में पुट कर सकती हूँ? नहीं, वैलेंसी नहीं है. कार्बन की वैलेंसी 5 होती है, बट यहाँ तो मैंने कर दिया है 1 2 3 4 5. सो मीन्स क्या एल्डिहाइड को बीच में ही लगा सकते हैं. It cannot be in mid. ठीक है, but it will be in the end or start or positioning of keton. It can't be in end or start, but it can only be in mid. So you can see कि aldehyde और ketone, the positioning of aldehyde and ketone is exact opposite. aldehyde को आप बीच में नहीं लगा सकते, ketone को आप बीच ही में लगा सकते हो. aldehyde को आप LD को स्टार्टिंग में ही सिर्फ लगा सकते हो, ketone को आप LD स्टार्ट में नहीं लगा सकते. जस्ट few points to keep in your mind. Okay, now एक point और we are left with, that is how to do the naming, how to write the molecular formula for ketone. So how will you write the molecular formula for ketone? The molecular formula of ketone is, let me just draw one ketone first. So पहले इसकी नेम बताओ मुझे. टेल मी द नेम ऑफ दिस पर्टिकुलर कंपाउंड. कमेंट में बिलो इफ यू नो द आंसर. So total number of carbon are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 means spent. Single bond है तो N. और what's the functional group? Functional group is double bond oxygen. Double bond oxygen means ketone. तो pentanone is the name of the compound. Now tell me, how are you going to write its molecular formula? तो इसका molecular formula में you will do what? पहले नंबर ऑफ कार्बन सारे लिख दो, तो C5. फिर नंबर ऑफ हाइड्रोजन सारे लिखो, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. H10 and at last just write oxygen as it is. और you can do what? पहले ये इस वाले को फंक्शनल ग्रुप को छोड़ के सब काउंट करके लिख दो. C4 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. H10 and then C डबल बॉन्ड ऑक्सीजन. या तो ऐसे लिखो या तो ऐसे, बट मोर करेक्ट वे इज टू राइट लाइक दिस. पहले नंबर ऑफ कार्बन लिखो, देन राइट द नंबर ऑफ हाइड्रोजन फॉलोड बाय ऑक्सीजन. हाउ विल यू राइट द मॉलिक्यूलर फॉर्मूला फॉर कीटोन? फर्स्ट स्टेप, राइट द नंबर ऑफ कार्बन्स, देन नंबर ऑफ हाइड्रोजन्स फॉलोड बाय नंबर ऑफ ऑक्सीजन, जो कि इज 1 ओनली. नाउ this contradictory question. Draw here propanol and here propanone. Propanol and propanone. Draw both of them. So let us draw it. Propanol means 3 carbon. Al means double bond oxygen, single bond hydrogen, and completing the valency. Propanone means 3 carbon again, but double bond oxygen, दोनों साइड कार्बन होना जरूरी है, and completing the valency. So actually this is your simplest ketone as well. Propanone क्या है? Simplest ketone है. But ये तो draw कर दिया. Now tell me the molecular formula for both. Tell me the molecular formula for both. So the molecular formula for propanol is C3 H1 2 3 4 5 6 H6 O. या मैं इसको लिख सकती हूँ C2 1 2 3 4 5 H5 CHO. और इसको मैं कैसे लिखूंगी? 1 2 3 C3 C3 H 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. एक्सक्यूज मी, यहाँ नहीं आएगा. आई एम रियली सॉरी, मैंने वहां पे वैलेंसी 5 कर दी थी, बट हाइड्रोजन की, सॉरी, कार्बन की 4 ही होती है वैलेंसी. सो हाइड्रोजन हाउ मेनी? 1 2 3 4 5 6. तो H6 एंड O. कैन यू सी प्रोपेनल और प्रोपेनन दोनों का मॉलिक्यूलर फॉर्म? So we can see the molecular formula of propanol and propanon is same. Why? Because actually the molecular formula of ketone and aldehyde is same, that is CnH2nO. Here N stands for total number of carbon. In this whole chapter we are going to refer N as total number of carbon. And you can check also कि यहाँ जैसे 5 कार्बन है तो H क्या है उसका twice. यहाँ 3 कार्बन है, so H is twice of the number of carbon. Here also same. So actually ketone and aldehyde are known as the siblings or the sisters because they have the same molecular formula, though their structure is quite different, not quite but very different. We are talking about two different functional group. Ketone is double bond oxygen and propanol is double bond oxygen and hydrogen. Right, this is a different. इनकी positioning में भी different है कि you can put this propanol, this aldehyde in the starting or the ending. Propanon या ketone को you can only put it in the middle, but इनका molecular formula same होता है. Right? Because ये एक important question है related to your chapter. It's a previous year question that I am going to provide you in the next video. But just remember that if they can ask you a question that tell two functional groups which have same molecular formula, they can ask you to, just a minute, let me rub it. They can ask you two functional group with same molecular formula. This is the only question they can ask you. So how will you tell them that? You will tell them that ketone and aldehyde are the two functional groups which have the same molecular formula, and you will write this formula as well, CnH2nO. And you can do this example as well, like I did here of propanol and propanon. You can do of any, and you will find that the molecular formula is same. इसी तरीके से होता है both in ketone and aldehyde. This can be the kind of question they can ask you related to the same molecular formula of ketone and aldehyde. ठीक है? So ketone is what? Ketone एक functional group है, that means carbon double bond oxygen. It will always be in mid क्योंकि इसको surrounded होना होता है कार्बन से. वहीं aldehyde हमेशा या तो एंडिंग में लगेगा या बिगिनिंग में लगेगा, बीच में नहीं लगेगा. Why? और एल्डेहाइड कौन सा होता है फंक्शनल ग्रुप? कार्बन डबल बॉन्ड ऑक्सीजन एंड सिंगल बॉन्ड हाइड्रोजन. कीटोन का सफिक्स होता है ONE1. एल्डेहाइड का सफिक्स होता है इन द नेम ओनली AL, अल. मैंने इस वीडियो में ये दोनों कीटोन और एल्डेहाइड साथ में इसलिए पढ़ाया है बिकॉज दे आर वेरी सिमिलर. इतने सिमिलर है कि इनका मॉलिक्यूलर फॉर्मूला तक सेम है, बट इन रियल दे आर वेरी डिफरेंट. चाहे इनकी पोजिशनिंग की बात हो या फंक्शनल ग्रुप भी डिफरेंट है, but the molecular formula is same. And you need to focus on these small things because they can ask you in your exams, and we don't want to waste any silly marks. So with this, we are done with this video. We are done with this topic. Only one functional group is left, that is carboxylic acid. We are going to cover up in the next video. It's not a really very hard kind of functional group. The one which were of great importance and quite hard to understand were ketone and aldehyde. But I believe that we all are clear with this topic. If any doubt, you can comment me below. So I hope you like my video. If you do, so do like, subscribe and share my channel. Also, don't forget to ring the bell hang button so you'll get all the notifications of my channel. Till then, stay tuned. Next video will be uploaded soon, and enjoy your day and have a wonderful day ahead. I hope this is clear with you all. Thank you.